This sucks, man.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Deep Dive Zone, a Sonic the Hedgehog rewatch podcast for fans of all shapes and sizes. As usual, I'm your host, Devin, and this is week, 3, I think, of our Sonic the Hedgehog SatAM coverage.
Yes, week 3.
Alright, good to know that I can count still. I haven't lost that function yet.
Congratulations.
I've just been uninstalling drivers inside my brain, and, it's caused problems.
I would not recommend that.
Yeah,
I need more
those are
memory
usually pretty
space for
important.
once we get to Sonic the comic, because I need to memorize all the important lore that has nothing to do with Sonic the Hedgehog. Anyway, episode 10, Warp Sonic. When Sonic and the Freedom Fighters take out Robotnik's main computer, they're trapped by SWAT bots in an underground tunnel, only to be rescued by, and I quote, a handsome teenager named Griff. Also, if you look at this guy's character design, he's weird and not cool looking. I don't like him. Griff takes them deep beneath the big city, where Sonic has to fight some rat bots. They finally arrive in Lower Mobius, where a group of Mobians have taken refuge from Robotnik and built a community which is dependent on an energy cube for all its power, which I'm pretty sure is a thing from Transformers, but whatever. Unfortunately, the energy cube's losing its power, which Griff keeps as a secret. Later at Knothole, where Griff learns of Sonic's power ring, he steals the Power Stone from Knothole's grotto and returns it to Lower Mobius to replace their fading energy cube. Sonic tracks Griff back underground, saves him from a pack of ratbots, and ends up giving Griff a piece of the Power Stone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, this episode was fine, kind of mid, honestly.
Moving on, next episode 12. No. No, there are a few things to say about this. It introduces the first additional group of Freedom Fighters in this show. It shows that it's not just Sally and Antoine and Sonic and the gang. There are other people who survived Robotnik's takeover, so that's notable.
Yeah, right. He says there's about 30 of us when they get to the underground city, but it looks big enough to at least hold a couple hundred.
That was like my first thought when I saw the city was like, that is way too big for 30 people. Maybe it's specifically 30 like freedom fighters.
Yeah, that's possible.
I was gonna say, here's a dark theory. There were more than 30 of them, but they lost them.
Ooh,
that is entirely possible.
I'll say the main thing that was, it's a perfectly fine plot on its own. The main thing that was getting me about this is that Antoine I kind of expect to be possessive and weird about Sally, but to have Sonic do it as well is just takes it to a place of like it's a little bit too much.
Yeah, I was a little off.
Yeah, I'm kind of numbed to it at this point, but since you bring it up, yeah, I mean, I never, it's kind of a trope, right? It's like, ew, didn't steal my girl or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty stupid though.
I do like the poem that Sonic writes for Sally because it's, it incidentally ends up being all about himself, which is very in character.
Yeah, that's one of my notes. It's like Sonic makes fun of Antoine's poem, but at least it actually was a love poem, whereas Sonic was just, praising himself.
Right.
So this is the episode where we learn that the Lake of Rings is powered by a crystal at the bottom of it that produces a ring.
Which they already seem to know about as well.
Well, so I guess when they say Uncle Chuck invented the rings, it means that he invented the system that produces them from the crystal.
Right. But they kind of just pulled this out of nowhere. The writers pulled this kind of just out of nowhere. And then previously the characters had said they didn't fully understand the power rings. Now they know where the power rings come from.
Well, yes, you could say that, but I would also say, they can know some things about them, but still not everything. What I would say is more alarming is the fact that they know that it comes from this crystal, but Sonic has no problem breaking off a piece of it to give people to power their city. How do you know that that's not going to make it not work?
That, and also, it must be really brittle, because Sonic broke it with his bare hands.
Yeah, it's like gold.
Yeah, okay, so two things there. First of all, not knowing about it, they can still know that it comes from a power stone and not really understand it. I don't really think. So this series is still at the point where it's introducing things. It's still in early days. It never really gets past that, in my opinion. I don't think it's wrong to introduce that there was a power stone. It was already kind of strange to have them like pop out of a lake.
That is true.
Seriously.
That's true.
And second thing, I am totally with you about splitting it in half. there seems to be absolutely no consequences from that. You would assume that the power rings would become less powerful or something, but there's no evidence of that later on that I recall.
Or maybe it just starts producing them at a slower rate.
Yeah, that would make a little more sense. But again, no evidence of that either.
Right.
So he just does it to solve the plot. We'll figure out the solution, easy peasy. That's sort of another trope where it's like, oh, there isn't an easy solution to this, and then we just make one up at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that in the context of trying to do everything yourself and reject help from the community, you could say that that's more the lesson than making an easy solution out of... No, I get what you're saying, actually. You're right.
I think, to me at least, it's more of an easy writer solution than an easy in-universe solution.
Yeah, I mean, if they had actually played it up, like, okay, now either of those things, the power rings are less effective or they come less often, I would have accepted this completely.
Yeah,
but
Well, and then you get to make new conflicts because of that. It would be nice.
Yeah, it would make it a little more interesting. Whereas
I think it just came from a place that they still needed some form of happy ending, and
of course. Well, that wouldn't even be a particularly bad or
no. I mean, that's a sacrifice
ending
that you could expect them to make.
Yeah,
I do wish that they thought
sacrifice that
of it.
I think the freedom fighters could handle, but instead they just don't. Sonic breaks it in half, says, "Oh, this will keep you guys going for a few months," and then A, I'm assuming we'll never see them again, and B, there's no consequence.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, mid-episode.
Yeah, we're sitting here ranting about a children's show.
I mean, yes.
That's what the viewers signed up for.
That is true.
To be fair, yeah, that is what the viewers signed up for, so I can't complain. I guess I wasn't even complaining.
I hold SatAM to a bit higher standards.
I
than
want to. I think my thing is I want to hold it to a higher standard because of everything I've heard, and most of the episodes have been good, so... When there's as Devin put it, a mid-episode like this, it's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
It's okay. One other interesting thing that I noticed was Dirk in the underground freedom fighters or whatever has a similar getup to Antoine's, which is an interesting bit of like hinting at the past. Like, okay, so they must have been both from the same royal guards or whatever.
Right.
I don't think Antoine was ever in the Royal Guard. He just had the uniform because his dad... I don't... Well, that's a later episode.
It is revealed later on. I'm going off of information only known to viewers that have watched up to this point.
And
goodness, I've ruined the viewing experience for everybody.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't know that.
It's fine. Listen, I'll just fast forward us to the next episode. It's fine.
All right.
Episode 11? Question mark? Maybe not. Subsonic. Robotnik severely upsets the ecosystem above and below the surface when he sends explosive robotic snake probes drilling deep underground in search of oil lakes. After being swept into an underground world by a whirlpool, that's a hard phrase to say fast, Sonic, Sally, Antoine, and Rotor discover a strange creature who claims he's the last of a people who have been destroyed by surface creatures and blames the freedom fighters for his plight. Rotor gets a chance to become a hero for a change when he saves Sonic and the others from a toxic pot of techno junk, but it's up to the hedgehog to turn the tables on Robotnik and destroy his drilling platform and team of lethal snake probes.
So first thing is, I didn't realize until I started watching this again and taking more detailed notes, but the biggest arc in the first season, there's much more of an arc in the second season of SatAM, but in the first season is Robotnik is out for oil. Because it comes up a few times over the course of the episodes. Like, they foiled the energy crystal thing, then you saw that his oil refinery or whatever was, like, falling apart, and so now he's, like, off searching for it somewhere else again. And so that's kind of interesting.
He's the lost Coke brother.
It's interesting that after a lot of episodes, Nicole demonstrates a seemingly universal and knowledge of anything that you ask of her. In this episode, though, their sole purpose is just to say, I don't have a map of the underground. It's like the only line they have.
Listen, she could only download Wikipedia. She didn't have, she didn't have Google Earth.
I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of these notes read very funny out of context. Like this one just says, I can't believe Sonic's ears can grow plants.
Oh, yeah.
Which it's the magic water stuff that does it. It's weird that affects plants and nothing else, because, like, humans also need water to grow.
Well, it's a weird fictional thing in the first place. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, wow, so a little drop makes a tiny sapling turn into a gigantic tree, but then later when you like give the whole supply back, I don't know what would happen if you actually did it proportionately. Like the
Yeah, it's like
entire planet
if there's
becomes
any
a forest.
vegetation near the stream that's flowing with it, then there should just be a gigantic wall of trees the whole way through.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't really apply logic to that, I'm
Yeah,
afraid.
they should have found like a way to weaponize it. They should have like planted saplings under Robotropolis and then just put that on all of them and just treed it out of there.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, on the subject of strange water, I couldn't help but think, wow, the multicolored water in the underground in this episode looks straight out of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that's just the normal watercolor in that show. I like the part where Sonic says we'll find Antoine and then heads in the opposite direction of where Antoine disappeared. I don't think that was on purpose, but it subconsciously come across as very funny.
Yeah, that's pretty on point, honestly.
That is very in character. I like that.
I think this episode is probably the first to truly confirm that big weird monsters are just like a natural fact of the world, and so I'm guessing that one in the space episode was probably a real monster as well.
I guess so.
Oh yeah, no, I don't doubt it. I just don't understand why it was there because it seemed out of place.
Yeah, I guess the question would be, why did
makes more
Robotnik
sense.
put this here?
I guess
Yeah.
Robotnik decided he couldn't make a slime robot, so he just stole a slime monster.
Anyway, that's not this episode. Another comment on this episode. I'm surprised that Sally and Sonic are, like, their heads are barely above the surface of the muck, but instead of, like, struggling or panicking or whatever, they're still able to shout, like, words of encouragement to Rotor. They've got, like, iron wills, or I don't understand how the
Iron lungs, maybe, because if
focusing,
it's able to pull you down that much, that must put a lot of pressure on your body, right?
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know a lot about like the logistics of like quicksand, and I guess quicksand. Actually, is quicksand even real? I'm like
Yes,
second
it
guessing
is.
myself. Okay,
Quicksand is real.
I guess if you can still breathe when you're waist deep or chest deep in quicksand, then this is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it just seemed kind of surprising.
Well, there was another part of that statement too, which is that they're calling for help to Rotor, who has not really gotten to be in the spotlight. I mean, he was around in the space episode, but he wasn't really...
Yeah.
They didn't present it as any kind of character thing for him. I think I'm eventually gonna really like Rotor across the various media that he appears in. I think he's a little bit boring right now. Maybe that's just me.
He's a little on the boring side just because they haven't bothered to really
I think
enhance his character.
part of it is that he's supposed to be the tech guy, but he doesn't have a very strong opportunity to stretch that role. And in this episode, he's still not the tech guy. He's just the friend that gets to do something, heroic.
Well, yeah, because it feels more like Sally is the quote-unquote tech guy.
Well, because she's the one who's always hacking his stuff, because she's the most
Right.
active mission member other than Sonic.
Fair, yeah.
I feel like when they're like in the boat, then Rotor's like, "I wish I was a hero like you, Sonic," and Sonic's like, "Well, at least you got a boat, and that's pretty cool," or something like that. So
The
like,
guy with the boat.
Rotor himself is doubting his own abilities at this point, so that's kind of like, if that's the way it comes off, that's on purpose. It seems.
Yeah, I suppose between that and like mangling Sonic's hair with that machine from the space episode, then there's at least some element of self-improvement there.
Right. So most of the episode's just in the underground, and then really close to the end, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute! Robotnik's got like a drilling platform. Let's destroy it." And then they get rid of it in like a minute. And I know it's a trope, but oh yeah, there's a snake probe emergency destruct button. That's so convenient. There's a snake destruct button, but then to destroy the actual rest of it, he just like presses a whole bunch of random buttons, which is another trope, and then it explodes. So it's they got multiple tropes going on to blow up the whole place in a minute,
Yeah.
like I said.
Well, that's the thing, is that outside of a vehicle which you could crash, I don't know of any machine that exists in the real world where pressing a bunch of buttons randomly on it will make it self-destruct. Maybe a nuclear reactor.
That's probably the only thing that would do that.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Episode 12, Way Past Cool. Episode 12 is called Sonic Past Cool. I can't use the YouTube descriptions as an excuse for this one, I just made a mistake. Tails brings a new friend home to Knothole, a baby pteropod who has strayed from the herd that's currently migrating. Sonic, Sally, and some of the other freedom fighters return Baby T to its mom and the rest of the herd as they pass by Knothole on their migration run. However, Sally realizes the herd's going in the wrong direction. Something's wrong. Robotnik's trying to capture the pods as they're the final animal species on Mobius to be roboticized. That's not true. Things get dicey when the herd decides to head into the mysterious, uncharted Great Jungle, where few who have entered ever return.
You're right, that it's technically not true that the pteropods are the last species to be roboticized, but Robotnik does proudly declare as such in the episode. He's just mistaken.
Maybe he's just, like, full of hot air and talking himself up or something.
I think at this point he just doesn't realize how much resistance there actually is.
Yeah, that's possible. This is considered the... Okay, well, it's not the end of Season 1, because technically the pilot is the very last episode of Season 1, but, it's not much of a finale. It kind of seems like it could have been a show of a different cartoon entirely.
I don't know about that.
It's better than it could be, because I was worried when I saw Tails with this dinosaur elephant thing at the start. I was like, oh, is this gonna be like a, you know, the new family pet is causing wacky problems? But it wasn't that. It was actually about we need to keep this endangered species safe, which is more along the environmental theme, I think.
It's just a Tails central episode, and Tails isn't the heroic type in this show. I mean, he tries to be, but...
We'll see a little bit better showing from him later on, but yeah, he's as of right now he's a small boy, and he's a good boy, but he's not a fighting things boy.
Yeah,
right.
Granted, neither are some of the characters that should be. We see Bunny getting fitted with like telescopic legs in this episode, which she does use later, but I feel like Bunny is like the most underutilized character because she is part roboticized, and she is second only to Sonic in terms of fighting, but she almost never fights things in this show.
She's almost never out in the field.
Yeah.
She's the I need you to rip something open real fast for me person.
Yeah.
Does that all the time.
Pulling off the grate with her strong normal arms.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting that we actually see Bunny's legs get modified in this, because I'm pretty sure in the comics they're just like that from the start with no explanation.
Yeah, it's another one of those, hey, that actually is a thing with an origin.
Right.
Speaking of origins for things, according to this episode, Sally apparently invented interspecies communication years ago. Which,
yeah, they
tested it.
They just casually bring that one up, which
And it's another point to Sally for being the actual tech guy of the group. Rotor is getting the shaft. You could so easily introduce this as like the thing that made Rotor want to be a tech guy. Is like, oh, if I can do this, I can do lots of things.
Yeah, I'll say that one is definitely just out of nowhere and convenience. Honestly, they don't even use it much until like the very end. Well,
no, I don't know why they bring it up that they have it and then they don't actually put it on until later.
Point is, I think you easily could have written around using it, and but they really wanted the joke at the end where the baby pteropod talks like Sonic, and they're like, "Oh, wow, he's talking like you."
I did like the line from Sally after that, though. That was funny.
I got confused because like we're gonna go never before seen into the Great Jungle, and it's like, isn't that where Knothole is? No, that's the Great Forest.
It's
very different. Yeah. Which, why is that unexplored? Sonic has apparently explored so many places in this world, not the jungle right next to his forest, or whatever.
I mean, jungles are a lot more dense than forests, so it's probably hard to just dash right through it.
I suppose.
Yeah, especially when there are plants that, like, destroy anything that touches them.
Fair enough.
You know what? Fair. Also, those plants are wacky. I don't know what the deal with those is.
They're just destructive. It's becoming more and more clear as the series goes on that SatAM just has weird stuff in its world.
It really does. There's just a lot of strange things out in the wild.
Yeah, well, it's a good kind of weird. It's even though it is all these strange anomalous things showing up, they don't feel super out of place within the show that's been built here, I would say.
No, when I said it was weird, I didn't mean it negatively. I think it's clever that Oh yeah, so there's a bit when Robotnik joins the episode where they surround everyone with a force field, right? And Robotnik's just like, well, Snively's like, wait, we could get them, we could stop them, we have them in the palm of our hands. And Robotnik's like, no, let's let them sweat for a little bit, and because nothing can break through my force field. And I think he's justified in that, because who would know that the power rings powered by plot could just break through the force field?
It's a different case from you could never expose the weak point on my robot and then hit it.
Yeah. I find it funny that Robotnik flings an insult at Snively when he says, "Beasts of burden do not hide, Snively. They, not unlike yourself, have no intelligence." And then Snively doesn't like refute that statement. He just talks about how like, oh no, the pteropods aren't as stupid as you think. They really are hiding. Like the insults at himself have been flinged so frequently that he's just completely numb to them at this point. I think.
But if he says that the animals are not as dumb as you think, he is also saying, I am not as dumb as you think.
Well, that's true, but I would expect him to like get an angry expression or like "hey" or something, but he doesn't. He just stays.
Well, it's like that's what I do when like someone comes at me with like a hot political take. Is if I don't want to argue with them but still let them know that I think they're wrong, I just say I'll look it up for myself. You know, it's just that slightly condescending but not technically rude thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
It's interesting character moment with Tails at the end of the episode where Baby T wants Tails to come with him to the valley or wherever all the pteropods are going, but then Tails is like, oh no, I can't come because the freedom fighters need me, which I think is pretty telling, despite the fact that at this point they're not really... They tend to be like, help me, Sonic, every time the going gets even slightly tough, but they still see themselves as like a part of the crew, and right. I think that's endearing.
Yeah. I think so too. I was even thinking of it as more, it's, we got you to your family and these guys are my new family, because right. Again, my mom is dead.
Well, yeah, that's true. You can think of it that way too.
Alrighty, we have moved on now to Season 2, Episode 1, Sonic Conversion. The Freedom Fighters, with new addition Dulcie, which it says new addition, but she kind of just appears and they act like she's been there for a while, but whatever. Develop a deroboticizer and try it out on Bunny. It's a success, and against Sally's wishes, Sonic battles Robotnik's newest weapon, a virtual reality Shriek bot, okay, and impulsively brings Uncle Chuck back to Knothole to deroboticize him. All goes well until Bunny suddenly reverts and the deroboticizer explodes. Then they discover Uncle Chuck has reverted too, and that he has Tails and Antoine with him.
So there's dragons now. Or dragon.
Yeah. Yes. That's the thing. That's the thing about the last episode where he says it's the last species I haven't roboticized. And then in the very next episode, here's a dragon that nobody's ever...
Okay, but isn't it kind of implied, or at least it was to me, that Dulcie is like one of the last few dragons remaining, and that's why she's with the Freedom Fighters?
Yes, that's true. Although we've never seen a roboticized dragon, but,
Oh, I would assume they've been roboticized.
Yeah, no, I don't know what else he would have done with them. A robot dragon sounds awesome. I don't know why they would miss that opportunity.
Yeah, that'd be great for, like, I don't know, that'd be cool.
It would be great for a removed boss fight in Sonic Adventure 1.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my comment on Dulcie is, it is weird that... Well, yeah, it's just a thing. It's like, in some episodes, certain characters don't show up, so I guess Dulcie just didn't show up for a whole season. It's a little weird, but...
Yeah.
It's hard to make a completely cohesive world.
Oh, yeah,
that is consistent, so it's fine.
Oh, yeah, well, at the end of the day, it's nothing really to really complain about. It's just kind of like, oh, they're acting like she's always been there, but we're just now seeing her.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not the only thing to change in this episode that they act like has not changed. Because, I mean, this is where the character designs have changed. Rotor and Antoine both look different now.
Right.
Antoine has some different details around his eyes and some different shapes, and Rotor has got shoes and gloves and a hat change.
I didn't even notice that. I'm not sure how I didn't.
It doesn't look as good. I still think that his pilot design is the best one, but... Sally's got the vest now. That would be the obvious one.
Right.
I did notice the vest. I'm not sure how I didn't notice Rotor having, like, an almost completely different design.
you see what you see. So this was one of the first episodes that I actually did see of this show, and I don't really remember how or when. I think it was when we very first got Netflix streaming that I saw it, but only hazy memories. But it's a good episode.
It is pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty good episode. It's certainly got...
It's our first sort of shot at progress, because they're building a deroboticizer. It's an actual, sort of paradigm shift. Even though it doesn't work, they don't act like it's all that's lost at the end.
Yeah, they just decide, all right, it's time for us to go back to the drawing board and rework it.
Yeah.
So yes, that is interesting. Yeah, we get a glimpse of that. But since that doesn't work, you could argue that's non-development. The real development is that Chuck, through sheer force of will, Chuck is a beast, man, overcomes the mind conditioning of roboticization.
That was an interesting one, yeah.
And then becomes a double agent against Robotnik. And that's going to be a new addition that continues through the rest of the series, which is very interesting.
Yeah, no, Chuck should be named Chad, because he is a king. He is nothing if not committed in every mind and cell of his body to fucking over Robotnik.
Now that we've gotten to see more of him, I also quite like him.
No, he's great.
Yeah, no, he's a personable guy. I do think there's a part in here where he's deroboticized for a certain amount of time, which I don't know how the heck it works that they're deroboticized. It only works temporarily.
Yeah, that was one of my main things. How is deroboticization something that's temporary?
So I alluded to this earlier when I was talking about how roboticization is very weird to me. Yeah. And I was alluding to, there'll be things later. This is what I'm talking about. This is the really weird stuff. You deroboticize. Okay, first of all, how does that work? I can understand turning someone into a robot. You replace them piece by piece. A really horrifying concept, but you can't undo that. Where you creating living tissue? That's really out there stuff. And I think far beyond what the freedom fighters are capable of.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is where Rotor's props as the tech guy come from, is that he was able to do this at all.
That's true.
I guess, but it's salvaged from roboticizers.
Maybe the roboticizers have a deroboticized switch.
I don't.
I doubt it, but
that's like including a self-destruct switch. Why would you do that? Oh wait a minute.
Listen, you just steal a roboticizer and then you just put it in reverse.
Well, Robotnik's clearly not the smartest cookie in the mad scientist shed.
You had it set to M for Mini. You need to set it to W for Wumbo.
Okay, I'm gonna put a tack in this one because I'm suddenly remembering the origins of the roboticizer. Yeah, we'll get there. And actually, I can think of reasons why that function might be there. Actually, now that I think about it.
Well, why they'd be able to do that? I think the mechanics of roboticization are still really weird, though. I think this was what I was trying to get to the whole time. Sonic and Chuck are talking, and Sonic was like, "I thought that the whole time you didn't," and Chuck is like, "Didn't know what's happening? Of course we did." And he says it in a way that's like, "Ha! You thought that I was unaware? I'm actually cool." But also that means that as much as you're a horrible working slave that, attacks people that your friends or whatever, it means that you're constantly aware of all of it, and that has horrifying implications.
It does, yeah.
No, yeah, this is a kid's show, but some of the concepts, if you think about them, are terrible. But that's another point for Chuck, though. I mean, the dude's been basically stuck, unable to do anything, and fully conscious for who knows how long.
Yeah, it's hellish.
But then he's like, no, that's great, because now I can be this cool secret agent, use all the intel for us, instead of being traumatized.
And I was gonna say, if they can just get Chuck to resist mind control, can't they just, can't that be the course of action for everybody, is just get to, one by one convince people, make them remember? But then I realize that Chuck is an absolute king with indomitable will of steel.
That's 100%.
So that's why he gets to specifically be one.
Yes. Although at the end of the episode, they do say, "Oh, look, we can see that you can overcome it now." So they're gonna try to go for that. Now, if they get there, well, we'll see. But yes, Chuck is just amazing.
I was saying at first, it's like, do we really want a de-roboticized bunny right now? Because I was thinking, she is really strong when she's part roboticized. We could kind of use that strength. I was thinking it would kind of be like a Full Metal Alchemist thing near the end of the show where he's like, oh, you can have your body back now, but he's like,
I can't find a body like this!
And I thought they'd do something like that with her, but no, it just comes back normally, and, it's like, she's also so happy to have her flesh back that it's like, I kind of feel bad for suggesting it in the first place.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I'm like, I'm afraid not everyone is as great as Chuck and could be like, no, we can use this situation to our advantage. Like, I've heard things from people who've lost limbs, and, like, it screws with your mind.
Right.
Man, so, no, I wouldn't want that anyone just so that they could be a cool fighter.
Every night, I still feel my arm. Actually, that's like the third Metal Gear Solid 5 reference that we've made, and it's like, yeah, Devin, you should understand people's plight with this when you're referencing a game whose subtitle is The Phantom Pain. Gee, I wonder if Phantom Limb is a theme in that game. Sorry, I'm being very self-critical tonight.
So, there's a lot of things to talk about in this episode. There's a bit that I kind of love and I kind of hate. On the one hand, the lines are good. So, Robotnik says to Snively, Snively, what color is my heart? And he opens his mouth, and Snively says, I don't see a heart, sir. And he's like, exactly. And I'm like, yes, very good, very menacing. But on the other hand, they draw a really disgustingly detailed picture of Robotnik's mouth, and it's the worst thing I've ever seen.
It's like a Ren and Stimpy frame.
Yes.
It
made me so uncomfortable.
He's got gross teeth. He's got, like, multiple uvulas. It's like, ugh.
Yeah. So... yeah, it's bad.
No, it's like, you can't have a nuanced thought about that. It's just like, wow, that's gross, but also it's a good moment, but it's like, ugh.
Yeah. No, it's a good moment, but it's also, it kind of makes your brain hurt.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's pretty adorable that the entire cast of Freedom Fighters refer to Chuck as Uncle, presumably just out of respect.
Yeah.
This show is pretty... Well, no, there's quite a bit of humor throughout, but sometimes I don't even know if it was on purpose, because when Robotnik's face goes on the Shriekbot, it looks ridiculous.
I don't understand this machine. It's called the Virtual Reality Shriekbot. Okay, first off, what the hell is a Shriekbot? Is that a name for any kind of actual existing aircraft that it has Shriek in the name?
I don't know. It's a weird name.
Second, virtual reality. Okay, he puts on, like, a pair of VR goggles. I've been playing Half-Life Alyx again, I get it. But it also casts his giant face on there, like you say. It doesn't need to do that?
I have to assume it was supposed to be, like, an intimidation factor, but it failed horribly.
It makes me think of, like, some kind of stupid TikTok filter where you'd put other people's faces on there, or, like, your dog or something.
And as for the Shriekbot name, if that's not actually based off of something, remember in other continuities, some of Eggman's names, like Big Isidus, so...
Well, but I thought that was, like, partially at least a Japanese translation thing. And at least Isidus has ice in the name. But, well, I guess Shriekbot has bot in the name, but fuck you, shut up. I'm sorry for insulting you over a thing you didn't say. I don't know. I'm running out of steam. I'm nitpicking now.
I find it hilarious when Sonic is like, well, this hedgehog is never giving up transition. I give up!
Yep, I had that too. I mean, it's a plan, obviously, but...
Yeah.
Good little moments of direction like that can spice up your show.
Yeah. And we get the first taste of Season 2 Snively's legendary shrieks of pure terror near the end of this episode. When Robotnik gets foiled, he's like, Snively! And Snively's like, oh no! Like,
yeah,
I can't do it, but it's amazing. You have to.
No, yeah, there's a change in voice direction across the show, I would say, because everybody's screams are a little bit different. Because I think Antoine is going to be the big one where you hear him shriek. Maybe that's why it's called the Shriekbot, is because Snively shrieks when Robotnik turns it off. This is also where Snively starts insulting Robotnik under his breath more, which I always enjoy.
Yeah, it's not really in season 1 he's more like afraid of him, but not so much I hate you. I mean, you can assume as much, but that definitely comes out in season 2.
Yeah, season 2 Snively is much more of a I hate my life core.
Mm-hmm.
Our final episode for night, season 2, episode 2, Game Guy. The Freedom Fighters run into a swashbuckler named Ari battling SWAT bots. Sonic diverts them, allowing Ari to escape. After hearing that Robotnik is holding his band of Freedom Fighters hostage, Ari decides to help Sonic free them. But there's something about him that Sally doesn't trust. Her instincts prove to be right. After luring Sonic inside an ancient fortress, Ari flees, leaving Sonic to battle Robotnik in a virtual reality game of life and death. Virtual reality, it's a pinball machine. If Sonic loses, he will be relegated to a strange netherworld called the Void.
So, okay, regarding that description, the main problems are, they call Ari a swashbuckler? What?
Where does that come from?
What is a swashbuckler?
He's just like...
Swashbuckling is just being gallant and fighting stuff? I don't know.
I wouldn't call him particularly gallant, either.
He's just kind of a guy.
Yeah, he's just a dude. He's just another freedom fighter.
Yeah, so that's interesting. When Sally is questioning Ari, they're like, I've never heard of another bunch of freedom fighters before. What about that underground group in a few episodes ago? What was it?
Yeah, that you just meant.
Warp Sonic. Yeah. And she could be lying to try to throw him off his game, but it's kind of strange that she's so suspicious of him.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it makes perfect sense for there to be multiple revolutionary groups in a world like this.
Oh, sure.
You know, it's like, yes, Robotnik is a one-man empire, and he has overwhelming force, you know, the likes of which literally no society in any history has ever seen. So I understand that, but it's like, if he does not have absolute control of 100% of all terrain in existence, then you're gonna have people that you've never met before.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to also not want him in control, because nobody wants to be controlled by Robotnik.
Yeah, I mean, Robotnik's just the worst. That actually leads into another great moment of his. Because we haven't seen him make tenuous alliances in this show before. So I love the moment when he's like, all right, Robotnik, I held my end of the deal. Now give me back my freedom fighters. And he's like, of course, dear boy. I always keep my promises. And brings them back, but they're all roboticized. Oh, boy. That's great.
Technically, he did what he said.
Yeah, well, that's my favorite brand of evil, where you don't actually lie. You just deceive them totally.
Yeah, you can play with your cards face up and still win.
Exactly. Another thing about Robotnik's deception, I find it very funny that he's so self-centered that he has to put his face on the pyramid and then disguise it, instead of just building it without the face in the first place.
You know, it's perfect moon logic for this kind of villain. I am a fan of that.
No, it's good. It's just funny.
So Eggman's trap for Sonic in this episode is a big pinball machine, and I was thinking, is this another Sonic Spinball adaptation that I missed? Did this game get adapted 3 times and we didn't even finish it, other than me? But no, it was just a coincidence that he happened to put him in a pinball machine.
Pinball is an element throughout a lot of Sonic media.
Well, I know, but, like, in the games it makes sense because Sonic's got the pinball physics. In the shows, it's just whatever, except for the game that has to be about pinball, and...
It's just a reference to the games in general, I guess. You gotta have the pinball episode. I don't know.
Yeah.
He should have trapped Sonic in the barrel.
Oh no! Oh no!
Actually, I don't remember if this was out when Sonic 3 was yet. It was, but only by 3 months.
But anyway, so this is the first episode we see SatAM Robotnik specifically treats one of their battles with Sonic as a game in a major way, which at first kind of seemed out of place, but then Snively literally questions him on it, and he's like, no, I've been waiting far too long for this moment. I want to savor it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm sold. That's fine. That's in character.
Yeah.
He probably eats food really slowly. He has to savor every single bite of everything he eats.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Robotnik opens a big old dimensional warp that people never return from, apparently. And at the end, Okay, so it's a bit of a trope. Ari is being pulled into the void, and he's like, "Wait, I have to tell you something very important, Sonic, but I'm gonna get cut off and fall to my doom before I can finish everything I have to say." But on the other hand, it is cool that they're setting up a mysterious list from Sally's father. So there's like, an arc hook that they've put in and will be picked up on.
Yeah. I'll say the thing that keeps sticking in my mind with the Void, which is that early in this episode, they find a big electromagnet that they use to, like, pull one of the robots down, I think. And I was like, yeah, that's whatever. And I kind of thought, like, why would you not use that when you're trying to catch the guy's ship when he's running away? But they just throw it away. But I thought that they were going to bring it back because I realized, he's opening up the void, and Sonic's about to be sucked in, and we saw a big electromagnet earlier in this episode, and I had this moment of, like, Vietnam flashbacks to Doctor Who Season 2 finale, whatever it's called, where they have the giant magnets, and they open up the big hole in the wall that's a void between dimensions, and Rose almost gets sucked in there, and I'm like, did Doctor Who watch this Sonic the Hedgehog episode, and take inspiration from that? Russell T. Davies, what the fuck are you doing? But that didn't happen. They did not use the electromagnet to not get sucked in, and so I cannot say that it is a wholesale ripoff, as much as, like, I had the gears turning in my brain, and I needed to talk about that because I was so certain it was going to happen, and I was amazed that nobody had ever brought it up, and they didn't bring it up because it was wrong.
I appreciate you bringing up Doctor Who, but when I saw you post that, like, screenshot when you saw it, I'm like, what is he going on about? And then I saw the episode, I'm like, oh yeah, I can actually kind of see that. So yeah, I thought similarly, but yeah, not quite.
What I really should have brought up is Star Wars, because at one point Sonic just uses the Force to attract a ring to himself.
Yes, and it goes through the ball. I
missed that somehow. That is hilarious. I'm gonna add that to the list of random ring powers that make no sense. I did really laugh though, because for a second the episode almost seems like it's gonna subvert the trope, because Sonic's like, I need the big juice, and pulls out a power ring, and then he gets knocked aside right before he can use it. I laughed when that happened.
Yeah.
But then he gets it later. Oh well.
Oh, this episode does reveal something that I should have understood before, and I should have mentioned it earlier tonight, frankly, which is that I understand what Dulcie's purpose in the show is, and that's that they need a form of easy transportation. I think that's why they keep Dulcie around.
They literally brought in a plane, and it does show up again later, I'm thinking about it. So they have that.
Yeah, but Dulcie, it gives them room for slightly unfunny jokes by just having her always crash land.
Oh, yeah, is that going to become a common thing?
It's a character trait, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah, Dulcie. I really like Dulcie all that much for one reason or another.
No, I don't think I've ever met anybody who really liked Dulcie. Where it's like, I've met Rotor fans, I've met Antoine fans, I've met Bunny fans, even of just their portrayals in this show where Bunny barely gets to do anything, Rotor is kind of sort of a background character, and Antoine is a fuck up. I've never met anybody who's a Dulcie fan.
Yeah.
At best, I've met people who are like, oh, she deserves to be included in the group either way.
We do get a little more on Dulcie later, so we can talk more in depth. But for now, yeah, they're kind of just transportation with jokes.
Yeah.
And occasionally ice breath. I do think that giving the dragon ice breath instead of fire breath, for a show of this era, is at least a little creative.
Yeah.
Alright, well, I think that's going to be it for tonight. Decent episodes tonight. I think we're honestly going to like Season 2 way more than Season 1 as we get into it. We're going to be picking it up with episodes 3 through 6, 7, I don't know. What are numbers?
7,
alright.
I think.
Either way, that's going to be all next time. Feel free to share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can always reach us at deepdivezonepod@gmail.com or at deepdivezone on Twitter. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.